My wife's sister confessed her love for me, and my wife kicked her out. Now my marriage is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. My wife and I have been together for 12 years, married for 10. We have 2 beautiful children and, until recently, what I thought was an unshakable bond with my sister-in-law, Jenna. Jenna lost her husband 7 years ago. It was devastating. My wife and I stepped up to support her and her daughter, who was barely old enough to understand what had happened. Over the years, our families grew closer. We spent holidays together, shared countless meals, and built what I thought was a close-knit, healthy family dynamic. I became like a father figure to my niece, and my wife loved having her sister so involved in our lives. We felt like one big family. But a few months ago, everything changed. One night, we were all at our house, drinking, laughing, reminiscing, just having a good time. Then, out of nowhere, Jenna blurted it out. "I've developed feelings for you." The room went dead silent. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost because Jenna just burst into tears, spilling everything she had been holding inside. She talked about how grateful she was for me being there for her and her daughter, how much she admired me as a father figure. It was overwhelming, and honestly, I don't even remember much after that. What I do remember is my wife standing up, furious, and kicking Jenna out of our house on the spot. The next morning, my wife and I sat down to talk. She was heartbroken. And angry. She told me she'd suspected Jenna's feelings for a long time but had hoped she was wrong. In her eyes, Jenna's confession wasn't just a moment of weakness, it was betrayal. My wife made it clear, we were cutting off all contact. No exceptions. I agreed, and at her request, I blocked Jenna from my phone. It felt harsh, but I wanted to reassure my wife that my loyalty was to her and our family. But it hasn't been easy. My niece. She's been texting me nonstop, heartbroken and confused. She misses us, our family, our bond. I showed my wife the messages, trying to make her see that this was hurting an innocent child who had already lost so much. My wife stood firm, saying this was the consequence of her sister's actions. I tried to let it go, but last night, I received a long text from my niece. She poured her heart out, telling me how lonely she felt, how she missed us, how she didn't understand why everything had to change. It hit me hard. I decided to talk to my wife again. I told her I understood why she was angry, but maybe we were being too harsh, especially toward my niece. I reminded her of what Jenna had been through, how she lost her husband so suddenly. I asked her to put herself in Jenna's shoes. What if she had lost me in a tragic accident? How would that pain change her? Wouldn't she need support too? I didn't expect my words to hurt her the way they did. She just looked at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I love you." Then she broke down completely. And for the rest of the night, she didn't say another word to me. Now, I'm sitting here wondering, was I wrong? Did I push too hard? Am I the bad guy for wanting to ease the pain Jenna and my niece are feeling? Or should I have just kept my mouth shut and stood by my wife without question? I can't shake the guilt. I didn't mean to hurt her, but I also can't help but feel torn between doing what's right and protecting my marriage. Update 1. My wife has barely spoken to me since our argument. It's like she's physically here but emotionally somewhere else. She goes through the motions, taking care of the kids, making small talk when necessary, but I can feel the shift. It's in the way she avoids eye contact, the way she lingers in another room longer than usual, the way she chooses silence over speaking. The guilt is eating me alive because I know I hurt her. I know I made her feel like she wasn't enough or that I didn't value her feelings. That was never my intention, but intent doesn't erase impact, does it? Jenna hasn't tried to contact me again, at least not directly, but my niece has been relentless. Every few days, I get these texts that feel like gut punches. She's confused, asking why we don't love her anymore, asking if she did something wrong. She keeps telling me how sad her mom has been and how lonely they feel. I don't reply anymore, but I read every single message, and it's killing me. I showed my wife some of the texts, hoping to get through to her, to make her see that this isn't black and white, but she barely glanced at them and just said, "This isn't our problem anymore." She's right, I know she is, but it doesn't stop the ache in my chest. I can't just erase a bond that's been built over years, especially with my niece. It feels cruel. The worst part is how much I miss them too. I miss Jenna, not in a romantic way, but as family. I miss our niece hanging out with our kids, the way she'd run through our house like she belonged there. It's selfish, but I miss the feeling of our big, blended family. And now it's all gone because of one drunken confession. A confession that I keep replaying in my head, dissecting every word, every look, wondering if I missed the signs my wife claims were obvious all along. I won't lie, I feel stupid. Stupid for not noticing, stupid for letting things get to this point, stupid for thinking that we could just move past this without everything falling apart. My wife is hurting, my niece is hurting, and Jenna. Well, I don't even know what she's feeling anymore because I haven't spoken to her since that night. And I know that's probably for the best, but it doesn't make it any easier. A few nights ago, I finally broke. My wife was in bed, scrolling through her phone, and I just blurted it out. I told her I felt like we were being too harsh, that we should at least try to find some middle ground for the sake of our niece. She put her phone down slowly, looked at me with those tired, worn-out eyes, and said, "And what about me? What about how I feel?" That hit me like a ton of bricks because I realized that in all my worrying about Jenna and my niece, I had been neglecting my wife's feelings. She's the one who feels betrayed, who feels like her sister crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. And here I am, constantly bringing it up like I'm asking her to just forget it happened. I apologized, Again, but she just shook her head and rolled over. I don't think she believes me anymore when I say I didn't mean to hurt her. She's been sleeping with her back to me every night since then. Then there's the issue with the kids. Our oldest asked me yesterday why they haven't seen their cousin in so long. I didn't know what to say, so I mumbled something about everyone being busy. They looked at me like they didn't believe a word of it. Kids aren't stupid. They can feel the tension. I can't imagine what they'll think if this drags on much longer. The worst part of all of this? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. If I keep pushing for forgiveness, I risk damaging my marriage even further. But if I keep ignoring the situation, I feel like I'm betraying people who once felt like family. It's like no matter what choice I make, someone I care about is going to get hurt. I keep wondering if things would have been different if Jenna never said anything. Would she have kept it bottled up forever? Would it have eventually turned into resentment? Or was it inevitable that something like this would come out eventually? My wife says she always knew something was off, but I never saw it. Maybe I was too naive. I don't think my wife fully trusts me anymore, even though I did nothing wrong. And that's the part that really stings. The doubt in her eyes, the hesitation in her voice when she talks to me, the way she double-checks who I'm texting when I'm on my phone. I don't blame her, but it still hurts. Jenna's silence has been deafening. I thought she might try to reach out again, but she hasn't. Maybe she's finally given up, or maybe she's waiting for me to make the first move. Either way, it's this constant weight hanging over me, and I don't know how to shake it. I haven't told my wife, but I ran into Jenna's mom at the grocery store the other day. She didn't say much, just looked at me with this sad, knowing expression, and said, "I hope you and your family are doing okay." I nodded and said, "Yeah, we're fine," but we both knew that was a lie. I'm starting to think that there's no fixing this. Maybe the damage is done, and I just need to accept that we've lost Jenna and my niece for good. But then I think about my niece's texts, about how she doesn't understand why we suddenly disappeared from her life, and it just feels so wrong. Last night, my wife finally spoke to me about it again. She told me she doesn't want to be the bad guy, but she feels like she has no choice. She said every time she thinks about Jenna's confession, it makes her stomach turn, and she doesn't know how to forgive that. I asked her what she wanted me to do. She said, "Just be here with me, not in your head with them." And I get it now. I've been so caught up in guilt and what-ifs that I've been emotionally checked out from my own marriage. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm trying to focus on my wife and our kids, but part of me still feels like there's unfinished business with Jenna and my niece. I guess the real question is whether I should just let it go or keep trying to make things right. One thing's for sure. I never thought one confession could unravel so much. Update 2. I wish I had better news, but things have only gotten worse. At this point, I feel like I'm living with a stranger, someone who looks like my husband but isn't the man I married. Every conversation we have about the stock turns into an argument, and I'm exhausted from trying to reason with him. He keeps telling me that March is the turning point, that we're just in the dip before the big move. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here looking at our empty savings account, maxed out credit cards, and a pile of unpaid bills growing by the day. I finally managed to go through all our finances, and it's worse than I thought. He didn't just borrow $200,000, he took out a personal loan for another $50,000. I found out when I checked the mail and saw a loan statement with his name on it. I confronted him right away, and you know what he said? "It's fine, the stock will cover it soon." Soon. That's his favorite word now. Everything is soon. Soon we'll be rich, soon we'll pay off the debts, soon everything will work out. I keep trying to make him see reason, but he's too far gone. He stays up late every night on stock forums, reading about how the market is manipulated and how weak hands are being shaken out. He's even started saying things like, "The elites don't want regular people to win." It's like I'm watching him get sucked into some kind of cult mentality, where no amount of loss is enough to make him rethink things. It's affecting our home life more than I ever imagined. Our kids are starting to notice something's wrong. Our middle child asked me if Daddy was in trouble because he's always so distracted and grumpy. I don't even know how to explain it to them without making their dad sound like a complete idiot. I told them he was just busy with work, but I don't know how much longer I can keep up that lie. I thought maybe if I got his family involved, they could talk some sense into him. I called his mom and told her what was going on, but she brushed it off like it was no big deal. "Boys and their hobbies," she said. "A hobby? We're on the verge of financial ruin and she thinks it's a hobby." His dad, on the other hand, seemed more concerned but told me to let him figure it out. How do I just sit back and let him figure it out when our entire future is crumbling? I can't sleep anymore. Every night, I lie awake thinking about what's going to happen when this all comes crashing down. Will we have to move? Will we even be able to afford rent next month? What if something happens, like a medical emergency, and we have nothing left to fall back on? It's like living with a ticking time bomb, and I can't do anything to stop it. I tried to sit him down and go through everything together, just to show him the numbers. I laid out the bills, the debt, the money we lost, and asked him, "What's your plan if this doesn't work?" And do you know what he did? He laughed. He laughed. He told me I was overreacting and that I needed to trust the process. I was so angry I just walked away. I know I need to start thinking about worst-case scenarios. I've quietly started looking at ways to protect myself and the kids financially, even if it means separating finances or worse. I haven't told him because I know it would lead to another huge fight, but I need to have some kind of safety net. The hardest part is that I still love him, but I don't know if I can live with this level of recklessness. It's not just about money anymore, it's about trust. How do I trust someone who is willing to gamble away everything we worked for? For now, I'm taking small steps. I convinced him to at least stop taking on more debt, but I can't get him to sell. He says he'll hold until the moon or zero, and I don't even know what to say to that anymore. I feel so alone in this. My friends don't really get it, and his family doesn't seem to care. I don't know what to do next, but I know I can't keep living like this. Something has to give, and I just hope it's not everything we have left. Update 3. It's over. And I mean really over. After weeks of tension, sleepless nights, and countless moments where I felt like I was losing my mind, everything finally came to a head last night. My wife and I sat down after the kids went to bed, and she told me she couldn't do it anymore. She said she's been trying to push past everything, to move on, but every time she looks at me, all she can think about is Jenna's confession and how it changed everything. She asked me one question that I wasn't prepared for. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If it were me, and the roles were reversed, could you ever look at my brother the same way again?" I sat there, completely silent, because I already knew the answer. No, I couldn't. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't something we were going to come back from. I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she needed space. Not in a vague, let's take a break kind of way, but in a real, I need time away from you way. She wants to take the kids and stay with her parents for a while to figure things out. And I can't even argue with her, because what else is there to say? Before she left, she told me she loves me but doesn't trust me. That hurt more than anything. I've never cheated, never given her a reason to doubt my commitment to our family, but in her mind, emotional betrayal can be just as damaging. She said she doesn't believe I physically did anything, but she feels like my heart hasn't fully been with her for a long time. Maybe she's right. Maybe I was too invested in Jenna and my niece. Maybe I should have set clearer boundaries, should have seen the warning signs, should have done more to make my wife feel secure. I thought I was just being a good brother-in-law, a good uncle, but now I realize there's a fine line between being supportive and being too involved. I hate that it took losing everything to see it. Jenna hasn't reached out since that last message from my niece, and I haven't tried to contact them. I know it's for the best, but it doesn't make it any easier. I still think about my niece all the time and wonder how she's dealing with all of this. I hope she doesn't think I abandoned her. Maybe one day, when she's older, I can explain things to her and tell her it wasn't her fault. But for now, I have to let go. As for my marriage, I don't know where we go from here. I want to believe this separation is temporary, that my wife just needs time to process everything, but deep down, I think we both know this might be the beginning of the end. And the worst part is, I can't even blame her for it. She deserves to feel safe and secure in our marriage, and I failed to give her that. Our kids don't know the full story. We told them Mom is going to visit Grandma for a little while, and they seem to accept it. But they're smart. They know something's off. I see it in the way they watch me when I sit alone in the living room at night, in the way they hesitate before asking about their mom. And I hate that I brought this into their lives. I've started therapy. I should have done it earlier, but better late than never, I guess. Talking to someone outside of this mess has helped me realize how much I've been internalizing. I've been so caught up in guilt and what ifs that I lost sight of what really mattered. My family, my wife, my kids. Not Jenna. Not my niece. Them. I still love my wife. I always will. But love isn't always enough, is it? Trust is everything, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to rebuild. I'm not ready to give up yet, but I also don't know if there's a way forward that doesn't end in heartbreak. If I could go back and change one thing, it would be drawing better boundaries from the start. I see now that I let things get too personal, too entangled. I should have been more mindful of my wife's feelings earlier instead of assuming everything was fine just because Jenna was family. For anyone reading this, take it from me, always put your marriage first. Even when you think you're doing the right thing, even when your intentions are pure, it's so easy to let other people come between you and your partner without realizing it. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. Maybe time apart will give my wife clarity, maybe it will give me clarity, or maybe it will confirm that we're not meant to move past this. Whatever happens, I just hope we can keep things civil for the sake of our kids. And Jenna? I hope she finds happiness, but I can't be part of that journey anymore. This chapter of my life is closed, and I have to accept that. Thanks to everyone who took the time to read and share advice. I wish I had better news, but this is where I am. And honestly, I think it's where I need to be.